A lot of times you go to conferences and you just hear about advancements of technologies. This conference provides a great opportunity for you to actually see and touch.
The level of interaction is significantly higher than what I'm used to with other conferences.
What's important is to be able to share ideas, and people are coming in from all sorts of different perspectives. So even in this morning's address, you've got 4 very different perspectives on the same problem, and that's very creative.
So conferences like DSET, really, it's great because we get all our customers and all our end users in the room together, talk to them, and it allows me then to go back to the office and brief the team on where the problems are and what we can do better in the future.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this DSET live stream today and webinar to discuss what's going to be happening at this year's conference, what themes we're addressing, and the development of the last 10 years at DSET. I'm now going to welcome a well-known face to all of you from MS&T magazine, Military Simulation and Training from Halldale, and that is Mr. Andy Fawkes. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning. Hopefully coming through okay, clearly.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Good day to you.
No, thanks for joining us this morning. And, this is quite a relaxed chat about looking back, but also looking forwards. So we started DSET 10 years ago in M-Shed in Bristol. And now we're in a bit bigger venue where we had like 100 people and 3 pop-ups. And now this year we're going to be at 2,000 people and more than 70 exhibitors. What are the differences, apart from the size and the growth, that you've seen over the last 10 years, Andy, at DSET?
Well, I'll dive straight into that question.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the change in venue, I think that was really interesting in a way because it was a very novel idea to do that, not the traditional exhibition. So that I think that really helped to kind of set the scene almost literally about, we're trying to do something different here. Obviously the exposure of it, I think it is now, totally established in the sort of diary, and it's also not just UK, which I guess the first one was, but it very much an international. I often think of the 2 or 3 star Brazilian generals, coming in online, and I think that's, of course, I guess driven by the pandemic 5 years ago now. Bringing the virtual side, I think that has also been a very huge change, and I think I often say that we as a community in simulation and training, we're forcing military to do distributed training, and yet we're not still prepared to do distributed conferences. So I think that's always been very good, and unlike other exhibitions. So I think the other huge emphasis has been on diversity inclusion as well, really making a big statement about that, which clearly is important for feeding the next generation of people, or changing the existing generation of people as well. They need to change as well, and bringing in different voices that not the usual suspects.
No, thank you. And I think, we now have representatives from 44 countries coming in person to DSET every year, which is, fantastic. And to the virtual side, we started before the pandemic, bringing in that virtual and with Seb Loze,
Yes.
who was somewhere else at the time, and actually he's joining us this afternoon from Bohemia. You know, he was our first
Yeah.
virtual
Yeah.
participant.
Remember it
And
well.
I think it's actually accelerated growth because it exposes the knowledge and the wisdom of what people are sharing. Because, as you know, it's not a usual conference. We don't accept papers. It's about what's needed now, what's the challenges now, and for the near term, going into the medium term future. And I think that enables people to engage in a safe way, in a light way from all around the world, but still to make those connections because the platform we use is really interactive and it's not just a channel, you know, it's somewhere where people can actually meet and do their networking roulette and things like that. So, you know, for us, that's been really important. You know, we've doubled
Yeah.
year on year since we introduced virtual. So I think you're
And
right.
I think you told me in a pre-show chat that it's quite costly for you. So it's
It
very
is.
much something you do as an add-on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tens of thousands of pounds to do the virtual live streaming with all of the, you know, the AV and the staff and the platform that we have to use. But we think it's really important to include as many people as possible, and also for those that can't travel for whatever restrictions, and those that can't afford to travel or be here in person or have got other commitments because, you know, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and not everybody can join us in person. So it's a way
Yeah.
of including everybody that needs to know about simulation education training, wargaming, and this year, cyber.
Absolutely. So I mean, we've spoken about
Mm,
the themes this year. I mean, we just spoke yesterday about AI
yeah.
in our Haldale podcast, but what about the themes this year?
Mm. So this year, we started a couple of years ago introducing those from emergency services, blue light, and critical national infrastructure, CNI, because the technologies and the approach to training is very similar. It's just the content and maybe the SOPs that are different. And one of the things that we've always said in defense is that we keep recreating the wheel when actually, if we just look slightly outside, you know this, there's masses of experience, both in technology and training delivery and wargaming, that defense can exploit, but then also those communities can exploit our experience and technology developments back into their areas. This year, we've got the British Army Security and Cyber Conference, which is running alongside. And of course, cyber is a huge issue right now, new cyber command, and we're looking forward to hearing all about that. And then this year as well, for the first time, we have got space. We're launching space, not to be a pun, but we've got the UK Space Agency and Space Command coming, and they are obviously looking at now how they use simulation or technologies and wargaming into their areas. So I'm really excited to hear from them.
Yeah, and I mean that the sort of vehicle for cross fertilization amongst these
Yeah.
is hope. So there'll be an opportunity, obviously, in the exhibition to meet each other and bump into each other. And
Mm.
I what about the exhibition? Have you themed that as well,
Yeah,
or is
well,
it quite mixed? Or
we've zoned it
okay,
just to
so
give
yeah,
people like a bit more traction. So UK Space Agency are actually having a stand as well, so you can meet them on the show floor, so you don't have to go
okay,
hunting around for those individuals that are presenting and also supporting that effort. So in the West Concourse this year, we have a live virtual zone where people like InVeris are building like a huge village of their capability, including shoot houses and walls and all sorts of really exciting things for people to get involved in. AVRT are in there with their dismounted close combat training system. And so we've put all the loud yeah, basically all the loud stuff where you can run around and kick doors down and shoot shit in that concourse. And obviously dining and stuff will be in there so you can go and have some fun and learn at the same time. Then we have the Serious Game Showcase and Challenge zone. So this is our third year of the Serious Game Showcase and Challenge. And it's proven to be a really wonderful vehicle for both established like small gaming type studios and companies to showcase their professional capabilities, as well as be a vehicle for students and other people exploring and developing serious games and we've got 11 finalists this year. And we've got two new categories, one which is digital wargaming and one which is manual wargaming. And I know, as you know, that there's a lot of controversy about whether or not manual or digital. I think it's horses for courses and what's required. But manual gaming is very accessible for young people. It's free if you've got a piece of paper and a pen, you can create your own game. And we wanted to include this manual game so that people learn about gaming mechanisms and can do serious games from their own home. They don't need all that digital equipment or coding expertise or anything else. So we think it's a really good way of allowing junior talent, and by junior, I mean, entry into that space. So live virtual serious games. Then we have got the main concourse where we have the simulation and training professionals, and we've also got a wargaming zone in that site as well. So we've moved the Wargaming Festival out of its sports hall, out into the main show floor, because there's so much, and we just want to really show it off. So we're really excited about that.
Yeah. I think that's sounds really positive, that because traditionally we're in the corner, a nice corner of the stadium, but to bring them into the spotlight, full spotlight, is sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, going back to the serious games, so you said 12. That sounds really fantastic, and it's I think Defence should be supporting more of that myself. I've been a great fan, so to speak, of exploiting games for 25 years now. So
well, it's
surprising we still have to do it, but it's good.
I know. I think the word serious needs to come across more in the serious games thing. I think people get hung up on the word game, but it's a very, very cost-effective way of training people or educating people. Look at the last year's winners, Blue Flame Digital, with Wings, and the year before they won. They're not a finalist this year. They didn't enter, but they won the first year with Chomp, which is teaching dental nurses and students about teeth and everything. And it's an app, and they made it available for less than 60p a user, and they've now given it away for free. So, it's repeatable. It's like delivered once. You can always do add-ons, and it's a very, very cost-effective way of training, millions of people with one game, basically.
I mean, I think that's another important part of DSET sort of mission, is to try and bring people who do that kind of thing with the sort of the bigger players, and try and build that ecosystem where companies can actually work together in the furtherance of the supporting the military. So that ecosystem idea, I think, is DSET's very powerful for that. Are you getting help, so to speak, from? I mean, could you talk about the support you're getting from the Ministry of Defence and other bodies, similar bodies?
Well, there's no funding, but that's not what we're here for. Industry pay to be there, and that's what enables us to put on DSET. Where the MOD and the Armed Forces support us is throughout the whole year. So, we engage and ask what their challenges are, and they've been very generous with their time, pardon me, and knowledge about what their challenges are, and they share that with us so that we can then communicate that to bring people in to answer those challenges. The other way that they support us is with their time coming to DSET. We've got a lot of very senior people coming to DSET this year. You've seen the program. Yeah, I know.
Could you talk about those then? I think you've got 2 3-stars.
We got 2 3-star generals.
It shows how important DSET's become.
Well, we have Lieutenant General Sir Rafe Woodis, who is the commander of NATO ARC, and he is opening on day one. Now, NATO, obviously, through the SDR and everything else that's happening in the world right now, is increasingly important. And we have representatives from 8 different NATO organizations convening at the show this year. And alongside Sir Rafe, we have 1 star from NATO SHAPE coming over from Brussels. We have the NATO Centre of Excellence on Modelling Simulation coming from Rome, and they'll actually be on the show floor as well, Andy. So you'll actually be able to go and engage with everything that they're doing, all the research and development. I know, it's really exciting, isn't it? And they're
looking forward to still doing a bit of NATO work, so
Yeah, no, well,
it's
they're
going to
putting
be really
on
useful for me, I think. Yeah.
they're putting on their own session as well. We've got a CAX forum preview
All
in the
right.
program, yeah, that the COE have very kindly put together, and they're going to be speaking and delivering that, I think, on day 2, which is the Wednesday. And so the cyber NATO group, Janad, yeah, so the NMSG, which is really important because the NATO modeling simulation group, if you don't know about it, they're the ones that help develop all the standards and work on interoperability so that all of our systems work together when we're having to work in a NATO environment. So yeah, I think the SDR mentioned NATO, I think over 180 times. So I know I
Yeah.
did I did a little deep dive and training.
Well, we don't need AI for that.
No,
Well, I hope you didn't count them
so it's
each one, but
fine.
there's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I looked at that, and funny is talking about the strategic defence for you. It did say it talked about a virtual training environment, a
Mm,
singular one anyway, and it talked about and the recent speech last week by the Chief of General Staff talking about training thousands of drone pilots and deploying 200 simulators. I hope those sorts of subjects can come up from the MOD side because
well,
I think
yeah,
industry is really keen to know how it can support the
uh,
MOD and
they
military.
are. And we've got DIMSO, which is the Defence Modelling Simulation Office from Stratcom, at the show this year and speaking in the program. Bijal Shah Mystery will be there to do that, and Lieutenant General Tom Coppinger-Symes, who's Deputy Head Stratcom, will be opening on day 2.
Oh, right. I've
Yeah,
heard him speak, and he does talk about AI drones and secure networks. I
he
because
does.
he spoke at an AI conference, a defense AI conference in London, which I attended a couple of months ago. Which so yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to say.
Yeah, no, and also excitingly, he's passionate about esports. And
Yes, you've. Is that the third day you've got, or is it?
we've got the Armed Forces esports teams on the show floor this year, and they're actually speaking in the program, and we are looking at it as esports is now a sponsored and supported sport for the armed forces. So on a Wednesday afternoon, you could do rugby or you could do esports. It doesn't have to be, or you could do both. Bit hard with a controller, but and the
Yeah,
point is that these tech skills, operational skills, are really valid and really important. And also the community it brings and the communication it brings is really fantastic. It's
yeah,
also a gateway drug into wargaming and digital wargaming, which is also a gateway drug into simulation and digitized forms of that as well. So it all works together. All of these strands work together, and we've got some exciting plans for that going forwards throughout the year before next year, which actually we were talking about earlier. I'm broadcasting from the studio. You see the lovely studio
yeah,
sunlight. And this is intended to be, because it's our day job. So modeling, simulation, training, wargaming, all of this we do every single day. It's not just a show that we put on because it's a show. We're not an event company. We are embedded and work in the space every single day. It's really important to us. So we have now opened the studio in Salisbury, which is 2,000 square feet of brilliant tech space and co-working and research and development, to engender that collaboration and those meetings throughout the entire year and not just for 3 days of
no,
conference.
no,
Again, it's really
yeah.
important that, your day job, goes on beyond conferences.
No, I've attended, and I like it's only a few minutes walk from the station as well, which suits
It is.
suits me,
Yeah.
which is good. I'm very encouraged by what you said about esports. I think certainly last year and the year before they've
Mm,
do some great talks. So I hope people will hang around to listen to what they have to say, the way they work together. And I think it is serious, actually.
it
Not
is.
It's not a game. If you look at, I know the Ukrainians use esports software or games to help them train the early stages of drone pilots. So it's fun, but it's also serious, isn't it? I think, as you
We
say,
have,
and also all those other skills. So that's fantastic. You're going to support that community at the show and through the year.
we actually have that software, Aubrey, coming to the show that trains Ukrainian drone pilots
Okay,
on the show floor with AVS this year.
that's
So yeah, we're really
with
excited
who? Sorry.
with AVS.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah. So
really,
Marty and his team are bringing that, and we'll be able to demonstrate and talk to that on the show floor if anyone wants to get engaged with that. So yeah,
yeah.
no, the multi-domain operational picture, of course, is as important as ever. So that's one of the golden threads running through DSET this year, along with AI that we spoke about yesterday. AI is we've
Don't
got
giving.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, we've got a session on applied AI and practical AI and what that actually means for the armed forces in this space, because there's a lot of noise about AI and it's one of those sexy buzzwords at the moment, but we're actually looking at about what does it mean right now? What are the challenges? You know, we spoke about them yesterday, and if
Yeah.
you need to know more about that, go and look at Halldale's podcast, which I think is released next week, Andy, isn't it?
Well, soon. It's a DSET special, so
Yeah.
we're very much. If you want to jump on that, we're publishing the next few days
Yeah.
on the Halldale website and on social media. We'll
Yes,
be pushing it out. So
go and look on the ubiquitous LinkedIn, and I'm sure it'll
yes,
be on there.
we'll promote it there. But yeah, I think the more discussion about that, because no one has all the answers, and it's an evolving picture. AI is evolving all the time. It's almost in my more journalistic side, it's very difficult to keep up with what's going on. So I think continued discussion through DSET and the year is really important to defence.
Yeah.
And avoid stovepipes. You know, people should be trying to share what they're doing. I don't think there's any big secret, is there? I mean, everyone.
No.
That's the thing. This is a technology that anyone can access. It's ubiquitous. So everyone
Absolutely.
really needs to know about it. Yeah.
And we spoke yesterday about the younger talent coming through, you know, Gen Alpha, the younger ones of Gen Z, who are using AI by default now. And it's about that piece of education to let them know or explain what the power of it is, but also what the challenges or potential risks are. And you know that we support as many young people as possible at DSET. You know, we provide internships, paid internships, and support them into industry as
Yeah.
well. So, you know, it's a big part of what we do. Is that
And
talent
you're still
development.
looking. Sorry, Tess. You're still
Yeah.
looking.
Oh yeah, we
For,
we need a community sponsor for this year. So if anybody out there wants to add direct social value into their MOD bids or DoD or anything else, we take money from lovely industry people, and we literally don't. We spend all of the money on young talent, developing them, getting them to the shows, paying for their accommodation, supporting them into other areas of education or experiences. And all of that money goes into that talent development to provide a pipeline of talent that's interested in defence, but quite often doesn't know how to engage. And we're an easier way of getting in because we go out to colleges and universities and say, you are welcome to be here. We need your talent. And I think, you know, by being proactive, we've proven that by doing that, we've had 40 odd plus DSET interns now come into defence that are fully employed into defence now in all sorts of areas, you know, BAE, into the MOD, into smaller
yeah.
companies. Yeah.
That's a really the next gen.
Yeah,
Does that include? Sorry to use the term blue light. I mean, if someone was
it
interested in
does.
supporting the police or
Oh,
or
100%. Yeah. So that's a really good point. Thank you. So um, the next gen DSET team and the intern teams is not just about defense, although it's called DSET. You know, DSET has evolved now to be DSET plus plus plus. So we will support that talent into any of the areas who need simulation, technology, people, like good project managers, good HR people. It's not just about techies. And I think people get too bogged down with, oh, to be an intern in this area, you have to be a coder. Absolutely not. We just need good people and good talent to fulfill all of the roles that are available.
that's really I guess around the central theme of simulation and learning. I
And
guess I was
learning,
better to
yes,
yeah
and
in the
education.
broadest sense. And yeah, it's so you do in the program. You also have speakers from. It's not blue light, is it? What do you call them now?
No, well, we say blue light and emergency
Yeah,
services.
it sounds good. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
no,
very easy to
absolutely. We've got
understand.
the London
Yeah.
Fire Brigade
Oh,
coming,
brilliant.
Hampshire Fire, Isle of Wight, Jessup from the police, the Bournemouth Emergency Services and Disaster Relief Centre. You know, we've got a lot. We've got 2 sessions. We could have done double that because there was so much interest from those particular communities for these skill sets and to explain what they need and what they want and what they're trying to get on board and procure.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really Excellent. And then, as we've spoken of before, the exhibition, that's a chance for people to bump into each other and meet.
Yeah.
Serendipitous. What about the social?
Well, the social this year is going to be
Yeah.
amazing. So on the very first day of DSET this year, on Tuesday, the 8th, we have the honour of hosting the Army Service Women's Network Conference, where we'll have between 600 and 1,000 serving British Army members to support that effort. And so that evening, we are going to be doing a social amongst the exhibition, beers and soft drinks and things like that. And then on the Wednesday night, because it's our 10th anniversary, it's also the ASN's 10th anniversary. It's also the NATO COE in Rome's 20th anniversary. So there's a lot of, celebration going on. So for the first time, we're holding a dinner night, black tie, mess dress, fancy evening dress, at the Aerospace Centre in Bristol, underneath Concorde, and it's going to be gorgeous. We're really looking forward to spending some quality time in a really lovely environment with the people that we've worked with over the last 10 and 20 years.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm a bit worried. I'm not sure I can still get into my my black suit. But
Well, you
we'll see.
might be in competition
We'll see
with
what I can do.
I know some
But
veterans who aren't too far away who might have a struggle as
I've
well.
got a black tie. I promise I'll at least do that. Yeah. No,
Okay.
that sounds really good, and it's really not. I didn't appreciate those other anniversaries, so that's really great to hear. So that's
And we've got
fantastic.
awards that night as well. So there's still time. If you go to our website, you can
Okay.
nominate people for awards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's.
And so we've got a couple already. And the people who get nominated, who we then get an award for, don't know. So it's actually a really lovely surprise on the evening. And it's about you recognizing your colleagues' like best attributes and things like this. It doesn't have to be. We've got 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards, of course, like a massive effort of work and body of work going into that. But, last year we had a Good Egg Award, somebody who's just always that kind person that you might have on camp or in the office, that person that you can go to and they will try and help sort you out. So if you've got people like that, or they've done a particularly good job on a project or anything at all, go to the nomination form for the awards night and pop something in there, because we love recognizing talent.
And it's still not too late to make.
No, you've got until the end of the week to get the nominations in.
But in general, if you wanted to attend the event, it's still open to attend.
It's still open to attend. Yeah, tickets are still online, and it's free for military, government,
Okay.
and academia. We mean, full-time military, full-time government, and academia to attend. And there's ticket prices on there for industry as well, and you can come virtually if you can't make it in person. But also the dinner night tickets are still available until Sunday, because then on Monday we'll be sorting out numbers and table plans and things like that.
Great. Well, I think we've nearly come to the end, and
Yeah.
the time has flown by. So it's been a fireside chat. But anyway, nice, very, very much looking forward to the event. And Halldale itself, MS&T will be there, and we will have a stand, and we will be covering the event with other media partners that you have. So so we'll be able to read about it afterwards, or even might take the odd video this year.
Yeah, and what I'd like to do right now is thank Halldale, Andy Smith at Halldale, and Rick and yourself and everybody else involved for your support over the years. You are our first media partner, and you've been alongside us for 10 years, and that's been really important. We've had other exhibitors and key people over the years that have been there since day one. So people like Bohemia, Lockheed, they've been stalwarts of this, and also steered us. We have a DSET committee, so it's about finding out what those challenges are. We do this as a team. It's a team effort. It's not done in isolation. So it's a massive thank you to everyone who's been on the DSET committee ever. Come to DSET, engaged with us, delivered talks. We couldn't have done this without you. It wouldn't be anything. It's about that whole community effort and delivering impact back into that community. We are here to support your day job, is what we're saying. Yeah.
I think we all are. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And so that's we just want to help the community for sure.
Absolutely.
Great.
So I am going to now poor Andy doesn't get a break now, because waiting in the waiting room is David Burden, who I'm sure will introduce himself, because Andy and Dave have written a book all about the metaverse.
Yeah.
And they're now going to talk to you about that and go forward from there. Hi, David. Nice to see you this morning. Waiting in the waiting room is David Bird. So actually, David, we're getting a bit of feedback from you at the moment. If you could turn off the live stream off whatever other device you have.
Yeah, should now be cleared. Yeah.
Yeah, no, perfect. Thank you. After David and Andy, it'll be lunch. And then we will be coming back at 1 o'clock with the first of our exhibitors from the innovation zone. And thanks to Mission Decisions this year, we have an innovation zone which is supporting lots of new, tiny, exciting companies from across the world in that space. So I'll come back at the end of this and then we'll reconvene again after lunch. So I'm now.
Sorry, Tess. And if people haven't been able to see this, will they be able to catch up on today's events?
Yeah. So there will be a recording that will go out onto our YouTube channel at the end of the day once we've edited and put everything together. So yeah, thanks very much. I'm going to go now, guys, and hand over to you.
Great.
All right. Thank you very much.
Tess. Thank you, Tess. Thank you, Haddy.
Right, shall I share slides?
Yeah. So just in terms of segue, as David does that, we are co-authors of the Military Metaverse, and we're just going to take you through a few slides, around 15 minutes. So please hang on. We're not going to go on all day, and we're going to talk about our journeys really to this point, and how we, about the future as well. So David, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Andy. So yeah, what I want to do is just give brief. If I need to get the next slide. Just very briefly, so give you a bit of my background and on what we mean when we talk about the military metaverse. So I spent most of my 20s back in the 1980s in the army as a Royal Signals officer, working with 24 Mobile Brigade in particular. But I've always had an interest in new technology. So in 2004, having been experimenting for quite a while, I set up my own company, Dayden, to work within virtual worlds and what we now call the metaverse. In fact, I checked, and my first presentation that was entitled The Metaverse, I did in 2007 to a conference in Holland. And from then almost up to the present day, I've been working within virtual worlds. The picture in the center there with the sort of the Asian looking couple, that's a project we did for the City of New York on resilience training and disaster management. There's a picture top right from a project we did for US Department of Homeland Security. Again, working with FEMA, their emergency management agency, looking at how you manage radio communications within a disaster. The picture bottom left is of a project we did for DSTL, I think as part of a DASA project, looking at the visualization of data within virtual worlds and using VR headsets. And we did a project for MOD around virtual humans, and that was so successful. Maggie, my co-investigator, and I ended up getting a textbook out of it. And that's still around and really goes into the whole depth of sort of what conversational AI is all about, and particularly how you embody AIs within virtual worlds. But I obviously got the writing bug. We did another project for DSTL, creating an ebook which is available online on our website at Dayden, looking at evidence-based models for virtual reality training. And then Maggie and I, last couple of years, have been made co-editors of this series for Routledge in the USA on the metaverse. And the first book we did was last year, which was a critical introduction to the metaverse. Maggie then did one around training and learning in the metaverse. And then the book that Andy and I are going to be talking about is then the latest in the series. And we've got at least another half dozen lined up with different authors. And then alongside all that, the other thing I'm busy doing at the moment is in doing a PhD in urban wargaming. So when we talk about the military metaverse, what I'm talking about, Andy may talk about something slightly different, is a digital 3D experience. It's subjective, so you very much feel it's happening to you. It's social, so you're in there with other people. You may be training with other people. You may be analyzing issues with other people. And you've got agency. You can actually do things inside that world. Ultimately, it should be very much an integrated experience. So at the moment, we tend to have lots of different islands of things that are known as the metaverse with a lowercase m, whereas the thing that interests me is metaverse with an uppercase M. where all of this is integrated, as the diagram on the right suggests. And you can relatively seamlessly move from one environment to another environment. Another key thing is it's something that should be always on. You shouldn't have to think about, oh, let's boot up the metaverse or let's boot up this application. It's just like using the web. You don't think about booting up a website in order to go and visit it. You click on the link and you're there. And that's exactly how, to my mind, the military metaverse should work. And when we talk about persistency, it also means if you make changes inside that space, then barring any other bits of code, those changes should stay there and should be present the next time you go into that environment. So it means very much like having a sort of a dedicated workroom on a particular topic. One thing that's absolutely key to me is that the tools should be democratized. That means that creating these spaces should be certainly no harder than creating a website, and ideally it should be no harder than creating a PowerPoint. And certainly with some of the tools around at the moment, that's more than possible. And the other key thing is that they should be user device independent. If I want to go in with a tablet, with a smartphone, with a VR headset, with a mixed reality headset, that should be up to me each time I go into that world. It shouldn't be something that's dictated by the way the world itself is built. And again, just to emphasize this idea, this is about connected spaces. We're most unlikely to get sort of one metaverse to rule them all. Instead, and particularly within the military environment, where we're working at different classifications, more likely is we're going to have a number of different worlds or different microverses, each of which is connected together. And you as a user may well have access to multiple different microverses, depending on whether you're approaching something through a training lens, or through a project lens, or through an organizational lens, or through an arm or service lens. So, very quick overview, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it later on. But that's sort of my take on what the military metaverse is all about. And now let's hand you over to Andy.
So thank you, David.
Sorry, yeah, but I'm sorry, I did one last slide. I mean, just to give you a sense of context for the book, what I've just talked about in those last couple of slides is probably chapter 10 or bits of chapter 10. So what we do in the book is we very much sort of build the path about how we get to that point, and also emphasizing all the stuff that's been going on for an awful long time in this space across the military. Sorry, Andy, over to you.
No, thank you. I think that's an important point, which will come to, is the military metaverse impacts not just training, but practically all aspects of defence. So, yeah, my journey is different, but is complementary. So, in the noughties, I was responsible, with the team to write a simulation strategy, and it's kind of paraphrased there. And I'm sorry, perhaps a little bit small, but it was the idea of an enterprise approach to simulation, not just stovepipe systems and discrete simulators that couldn't talk to each other, couldn't share data, and so forth. So, and also more, to save money and to make things quicker to update. So. That was a sort of, and I was vaguely aware of the word metaverse then, but I didn't write about it. 2019 with Bohemia and the British Army, I was project architect for the virtual reality land training, where we put over 30 soldiers in VR, armored infantry. They weren't persistently there, but that was my first full taste of XR. And of course, XR, a bit like AI, has been advancing hugely. So what people might have said then, even in those 6 years ago, is not really true now that the technology has advanced so much. So in 2020, in the pandemic, it was a kind of cure. This is before Zuckerberg. I did write an article, which Haldale kindly published, because I was kind of interested that if you look at the military metaverse, it's quite similar to what the military have been doing in terms of live virtual constructive simulations for a long time. You could say even since the 1980s. In 2022, I then, through VRAI, we wrote under DSTL funding, a so-called military metaverse ConOps, which again, it in a way, it wasn't just about technology. It was trying to join up defence, that modelling and simulation could be used across all aspects of defence. And then in 23, again through VRAI, I was looking at XR standards and security, which again helped in the writing, or supporting my brain in trying to write this book with David. why this is incredibly relevant, even if you don't like the word metaverse now, is that everything aspect of it is just going forward. The idea, even just 2 years ago, that soldiers would be having kind of mixed digital and real worlds where they were controlling drones flying into real people was just unimaginable, and yet that has happened. So where those soldiers are, well, literally where they are, and although they are in a kind of mixed digital real world. Also, if you look at smart glasses in terms of augmented reality, those are in lots of people's view going to be ubiquitous by the end of this decade. So pretty well everyone will have some XR device on their face. Also, AI, the impact of AI on this in this world is that is just creating a 3D image from just a webcam. And on the right, on the bottom, standards. Now, defence, I know I used to be part of the NATO modelling and simulation group, still working on that. And defence has created lots of great standards, but the full weight of standards is now coming not from defence at all. It's coming from industries like entertainment, so an Apple, Pixar, Epic Games. So we really need to start watching those standards, and not as well as the kind of looking after the existing defence ones, and all whole issues around privacy and security. So that's another subject that I've worked on. Next slide, please. And really, yes, it is a convergence of technologies that is really happening now. AI, XR, virtual worlds, gaming, it's all, and the internet and processing power, it's all kind of coming together, like the original book in 1992 was predicting, is scarily happening, where the digital world is impacting on the real world and vice versa. And a lot of say it is the next evolution from a more 2D experience like we're having right now to a 3-dimensional. But I think this convergence is a huge challenge for defence, because even 20 years later, do we have the mechanisms in defence to coordinate and bring things together? It's still incredibly challenging. Next slide. And just to bring this really up to date, if you read the recent strategic review, it's talking about developing a single virtual training environment. It's not the first time that's been said, but it does say that. And it's also talking about a targeting web. And if you look at the diagram in the bottom right there, you can imagine a digital twin of that, or a simulation of that. And we're not getting far away from that idea of a singular simulation, both for all aspects of defence, not just training. And then also, I think the MOD, or sorry, Defence, pushing towards a digital warfighter group is, again, maybe not a brand new idea, but is this notion that we're also fighting in the digital world, which of course is 3-dimensional. The real worlds and the digital worlds will become 3-dimensional. The next slide, I think, is over to you. Oh, sorry, no, I'll try and speed this up. So I do think, beyond what we call these things like the metaverse, it is about seizing this 3D future where you have these, as David's alluded to, really in another language, so that we have these military shared worlds, digital worlds, and they can support digital twins. So an idea of a mirror domain, so digital twins for acquisition, research and development, a learning arena where people can just jump in and do what they need to do, and then this cognitive terrain, the idea that simulation and command and controls systems will come together and blend. But actually, those 3 things are going to be one singular military metaverse, in my humble opinion, or in our humble opinion. So, David.
Okay, I mean, one of the things we believed in doing is sort of practicing what we preach. So rather than just writing a good old-fashioned dead tree book about the military metaverse, we thought we actually wanted to go and build something that people can visit, so as to get a sense of sort of some of the things that you can do within these spaces. So what we've done is we've built a world, and the URL is there at the bottom of the page, and you can find it on sort of any of our websites and on the book website, which really lets you explore the book chapter by chapter. And so as you can see there from the circle areas, we've got an area dedicated to each of the chapters in the book. The book only lets us do sort of color static photographs. We're obviously inside the virtual world. We can do color images, we can do links out to video. We can actually even do interactive things, but it actually lets you walk through the book and the arguments of the book, see some of the examples, read about more background information. And the whole point of these sorts of spaces is that they are, back to what I was saying at the beginning, they are social spaces. So it may well be that whilst you're in there looking at it, somebody else is also in there looking at it. You strike up a conversation and what's known as sort of serendipitous discovery. And you really get the sense of sort of being there in a social space, learning about a new topic. And from there, we can then link you out to a variety of different resources. So I'm just going to take my life very briefly in my hands and just see if I can just give a live demo. Seeing as I always like to do that sort of stuff, just to very quickly sort of show you how this works. So what I'm going to do is...
While you're doing that, David, I think David and I have experimented where just with a mobile phone, we took a scan, just a normal with software that anyone can get, a scan of anything in your room, like an ornament or whatever. And within literally, well, let's say a minute, it's in this world. And so this idea of bringing 3D content so quickly into a real kind of digital world where, years ago I would have been told, Andy, that takes weeks or months and it's costs lots of money. And now you can bring things in very quickly.
Okay,
David.
so hopefully people should now be seeing that. And in fact, you see the URL at the top of the screen here. If you type that into your own browser, it'll literally drop you straight into this world next to me. Because it's a completely sort of open space that runs in the browser. And there's a bit of lag, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to teleport between various places. But you can see there in the distance we've got a little bot, and the bot knows a bit about the book, so the bot is able to answer questions on the book. And if I want to go to a particular chapter, so rather than sort of walking there and taking time, I'm just going to click on one of these highlights. And it jumps me straight to another part of that world. This bit is all about the use of virtual worlds for analysis and planning. So we've got the idea of sort of mock-up 3D space where we can sort of do coa planning within the environment. There's an image off there to the side that actually shows mixed reality. So that's actually Andy's avatar in my physical room, and Andy and I actually playing a war game within a mixed reality space. And then the images to the right-hand side there, showing various sort of data visualizations and the way in which we've used virtual worlds in the past to analyze data. And then just click through to one more. If I just go to the War in the Metaverse, so this is the final chapter of the book. And what we do in this chapter is we actually start off with a model that we developed in the Critical Introduction book, looking at 7 different possible outcomes for what the metaverse may turn into, thinking about the impact of sort of war in the metaverse within each of those different outcomes. We also consider this idea of you've got sort of a metaverse stack, and realistically the war could take part on any of those layers. And what's it like if it's take part in the physical layer? What's the implications? What if it's actually happening at the metaverse layer, and why might that happen? And then obviously this is, some of this stuff is verging on science fiction. So we've looked at a variety of sort of different models of war, from the grey zone war through an information war, both of which quite honestly are happening right now in the metaverse and have been for several decades. And then into a war of avatars, a war of bots, a war of fakes, and then into warlocks and AI, and a truly virtual war. And some images there from various bits of media. My particular favorite is the flower games from Mexico in the center there, about different ways of sort of approaching this concept of virtual war. So hopefully that just gives you a flavor for something that we've been able to create relatively quickly, very much in days rather than weeks. And in fact, I've just used this same technology with some students at Wolverhampton University, and it took me 2 hours to get them to be developers within this space and creating their own environments, fairly typical to this.
It's very exciting times, isn't it, David?
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just go back to the slide deck and we'll just finish off just to tell you where you can get hold of the book, which of course is the absolutely most vital and important thing.
I just want to share an insight very quickly about science fiction. You mentioned that, David. I really think we all should be reading science fiction in these sort of spaces. And I read that some people might consider science fiction as a simulation in itself, where an author has kind of imagined a world or simulated a world and see what happens. So indeed, the metaverse does come from science fiction. So
yeah, it all comes full circle. So if you're interested in knowing more about the book, then that's the link to it, and just to search for Metaverse series, and you should be able to find it on the web. There is actually a discount code that's valid up until the end of this month. So if you're getting quick, you can get 20% discount off of the book at the Routledge site. And we'll also be having a prize draw actually at DSET itself, as well as having inspection copies of the book. We'll also have a business card drop. So if you fancy a chance of winning a copy of the book, then please come along to find us probably on the Bath Spa stand, and drop your business card in, and we'll make a draw at one of those wonderful social events that Tess was talking about earlier on. And with that, I
The
think
Bath Spa stand, just to be
Bath
clear.
Spa stand, I think, is probably
Okay.
the most reliable one.
Just
Yeah.
for our listeners. Yeah.
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 And they're on the show floor in the South Concourse, just so that
Okay.
people can find
Thank
you
you.
easily. Very simple.
Thank you for situating us. Yes.
Yeah, no, guys, thank you very much for that. It's super interesting. And it'll be really lovely as well for people to come along and actually meet the authors. We love that. You know, Dr. John Curry did a Meet the Author session last year, and doing that again also from Bath Spa. Bath is also our alma mater, isn't it, David, as PhD
Yeah, certainly
students,
is.
PhD candidates.
Yeah.
So that's super exciting. David, I was going to ask you a quick question about your students at Wolverhampton. Did you find that they were non-coders and people like that were in the room, or what kind of?
Yeah. It was actually done for an English literature course for people who were doing science fiction module. So they were almost all completely non-coders, non-techie people. But I was able within, say, about an hour and a half, 2 hours, to teach them all the key functionality they needed. And what they were then set as a course project was working in sort of 2s and 3s, was to build their own virtual world to explore a particular theme that they'd been looking at on the course. And they did some really stunning, really interesting bits of work. And of course, one of the nice things that the tutors like is that you can't at the moment tell an AI to say, go off and build me a virtual world on X.
Yeah.
Unlike writing an essay. So actually, it was quite a nice way of very much seeing how, very much how they were working, rather than the AI was working.
And it just goes to show that these technologies aren't just useful for defence, but like Andy and I were talking about earlier, that the whole wider talent that's available out there into all industries, all areas and professions.
Yeah, completely horizontal technologies. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I'm going to ask you one final question from both of you. What are you most excited going forwards about either this technology or the military metaverse in, say, like the next year or 5 years?
I think in the shorter term, I think the mixed reality piece, the mixed reality wargaming experience that I've had so far, we demoed some stuff down at King's. We'll be bringing it to DSET. So you'll have the chance to shove on a VR headset, or a mixed reality headset rather, and you'll just see a war games table in front of you. And at the show, you'll be able to play against somebody stood there, but in reality, you could do that anywhere across the globe. And it's a very different way of exploring, particularly war games where the vertical dimension is important. So be that an urban game, an air game. We were at King's, we suddenly started playing around the idea of the subsea game. And we're looking at submarines and things like that. So I think in the short term, it's that. In the longer term, I think it's the blend of conversational AI and virtual worlds, and being able to go into these places. I mean, I've literally today just launched Virtual Urban Wargamer, which is a virtual copy of me and all the work I'm doing on the PhD. And the ability to talk to that inside a virtual world and collaboratively build things, I think is absolutely fascinating.
No, fantastic. And what about you, Andy?
I think extended reality in the broader sense. So I think if you look at these soldiers controlling drones using XR headsets, which are mixing digital and real things, why not see that with other aspects of defense? I think once it becomes socialized, maybe every soldier will have a headset, and then they could use it for training. I think the other thing is smart glasses. I think because the cost of those and their capability is dropping all the time, and I think once everyone has got them, even me, I'm not an early adopter, but I will be there by the end of this decade when the batteries and the sensors, and as David, you'll have AI. It's still not perfect, but AI will be with you all the time, but you'll also be able to share what you're doing with other people. Now that's a bit scary, but what in the military context you could share, I'm trying to fix this pump, how do I do it? So I think in military there's going to be huge, where again, maybe every soldier will have some glasses that have some mostly the real world, but having all these other augmented aspects. So I think I'm really sort of saying the same thing as David, but I think it's consumerism and war is changing it, not defense. I think, not defense industry.
I think one of the really important things you've just brought up there is actually the hardware aspect of all of this. When we were there in the 90s, the cost of storage was ridiculous, but kind of halved every other year. So you could kind of predict when you could join in to have large amounts of storage. The same is going to happen with all of this tech, like, the smart glass and things like that. And we've got the structural battery company coming to DSET this year for the first time, with their innovative way of building batteries and delivering that. So I think we're looking at all of the component parts. Novatech there for hardware and things like that. So thank you for raising that inadvertently. I'm just
Thank you,
wondering
Tess.
for everybody watching, you can drop questions for Andy, David, or anybody else that's coming in today in the chat below YouTube, and we will get those questions to people as they are live. Otherwise, thank you very much for that, Andy and David. And,
Thank you, Tess and Abby, in
Yeah,
the
thank
background
you.
as well. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see you in less than 2 weeks, which is crazy.
great.
And we will see everybody else after lunch at 1 o'clock. So thank you very much with Cineon, and we'll see you then. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Goodbye.
Tess. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
A lot of times you go to conferences and you just hear about advancements of technologies. This conference provides a great opportunity for you to actually see and touch.
The level of interaction is significantly higher than what I'm used to with other conferences.
What's important is to be able to share ideas, and people are coming in from all sorts of different perspectives. So even in this morning's address, you've got 4 very different perspectives on the same problem, and that's very creative.
So conferences like DSET, really, it's great because we get all our customers and all our end users in the room together, talk to them, and it allows me then to go back to the office and brief the team on where the problems are and what we can do better in the future.